Hey everyone, this is Dr. Drizzle and welcome to the National Parks Expedition Challenge. Today we are in Zion National Park right outside of Springdale, Utah. And we're going to be talking to our newest friend, Ranger Katie. Ranger Katie, thanks for having us here today.
Of course.
Will you tell us how you got to this park and what do you do here?
Sure. So I have been here for 3 summers. I started out as an intern here with the education program, and I also had an internship with the interpretation division, which is working at the visitor center and doing programs for everyone of all ages. But now I am a ranger back with education, and so I get to teach our youngest visitors about the park, working with the youth and the families who come visit Zion.
Well, what degree got you here?
I had a biology degree with an emphasis in zoology, and my studies helped me learn about this area.
So did you dream of becoming a national park ranger, or what were your thoughts when you were younger?
I actually wanted to be a teacher, and when I got to college, I decided I didn't necessarily want to be in a classroom all the time, but I knew I liked learning about science, and so I decided to become a biology major. And then throughout my biology major, I was trying to find ways to use that and also teach. And that's how I found my internship. And I just loved being in national parks and teaching in national parks and telling people about all of the cool stuff that we can see here and how we can protect these lands as well. And so that's what I'd like to do. I get to teach and talk about all the science I've learned about.
Well, we mentioned a lot of times during our National Parks Expedition Challenge that when your passion intersects your purpose, you have a job for life. So you are a teacher in an outdoor classroom, so I love that. I also noticed that you have been dedicated to work with the Junior Ranger program. Can you tell us a little bit about the Junior Ranger program?
Of course, yeah. So the Junior Ranger program is something that basically all national parks have. And so it is an activity book that you can pick up when you get to the park and complete while you are visiting that park, and then bring it back to the visitor center before you leave, and you'll get sworn in. You'll take an oath and be sworn in as a protector for that park. And you get a badge that's shaped kind of like mine, but made out of wood, and it smells like a campfire if you smell it, at least for Zion's. Some of the parks have different badges, but that signifies that you are ready to help protect this park, and you've hopefully seen some cool things here and can help us in the future.
I think it's a great program, and we know that we've shared a lot of these ranger programs, junior ranger programs, with kids around the country as we have traveled, and they love it because there's also virtual opportunities for them to earn these badges too if they can't get to the park. So we love that the national parks and the schools have sort of intersected there also. So here we are in Zion National Park, which if you just look around, your jaw drops. It is just a beautiful place. Tell us a little bit about Zion National Park.
Sure. Zion is Utah's first national park. It was designated as a national monument first, named Makuntuweep. So Makuntuweep is a Southern Paiute word, loosely translating to straight up land. And it was renamed Zion in 1918 and then created as a national park. It was renamed Zion in reference to this being a place of sanctuary for the Mormon settlers who came here as well. So this place is a great place to see geology. There's about 270 million years of geology exposed in our rock layers here.
So I know that different parts of the park have names. Can you tell us about a few of the most famous or even less famous places around here?
Yeah, so some of our most famous places are Angel's Landing and the Narrows, which are farther up the canyon here. But around us here, we can see Cable Mountain, we can see the temples and the towers of the Virgin here. We can also see the Sentinel, which is where a very large landslide created a lake here for a short time in Zion's history. And so a lot of the names here in the park come from either the Southern Paiute language, such as the Paruses Trail, which means bubbling water, or the Temple of Sinawava, Sinawava is a Paiute god, or some of the names also come from the LDS people who lived here as well.
I noticed when doing some research that you have this really challenging trail, this Angel's Landing trail. Now, have you ever taken this trail before?
I have never hiked the chains part of it, which is the very narrow section at the end where there are drop-offs on either side and you have to hold onto a chain and there's people coming in each direction, and the trail can be only this wide. I'm not a fan of heights, so I've never hiked that part.
But if people wanted to come here, there are obviously many more trails
Yes.
around here, and you even told us of a pretty nice one that we could do today that would keep me in the shade. I
Yes.
really like that. So how big is this place? Can you tell us how large this is?
Yeah, Zion covers about 232 square miles.
We can't cover all that today, but let's go take a quick tour of this place and you can point out some interesting facts for us.
Sure. So Zion's shuttle bus drives up the Scenic Drive, which is the most popular 8 miles within Zion Canyon. Now, we're passing Court of the Patriarchs, and we can see the peaks known as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which were named by a visiting minister from Ogden, Utah, who was taken on a tour through the canyon by some local boys in the early 1900s.
So I wouldn't have thought that that's what they were, but now that you've spoken those words, I can absolutely see those as patriarchs. That's very neat the way they name them, and then it just becomes that to you, right?
Now we are getting to the Zion Lodge. All right, now we are at the Zion Lodge. So this lodge has actually burned down a couple times. The second time it was rebuilt in a different style, but after the second time that second lodge burned down, they rebuilt it in the original style. And so now we can see the original style here today. The cottonwood tree that is on this lawn is around 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
So it's been here for quite a long time, and it provides some nice shade in afternoons like today when it gets up to 100 degrees. Now the emerald pools are a neat feature here in the rocks because they are fed by springs. Then this water comes from water that is working its way out of our rocks. So it is old rain and old snow that is filtering through our rock layers, and when it reaches a layer that has less space for the water to move through, so it's less permeable, the water comes out the side of the rock instead. So this creates hanging gardens and it creates springs, and that is what feeds our emerald pools, as well as some areas along the Riverside Walk at the very end of the canyon. Now from the grotto, we can start hiking on the Angel's Landing Trail, which is that very narrow trail that we talked about, but we can also just see the peak from here if you're not wanting to climb all the way up there. Here at Big Bend, we can also see the other side of Angel's Landing, and way up along the top you can find little tiny hikers silhouetted by the sky who are on that last section out to the peak that is named Angel's Landing because it was called so high that only angels could land there. Now this is also where the condor chick that has fledged from its nest is. So condors don't build a true nest. They will just find a nice little cave in the canyon here and lay the egg right on the cliff, in that cave. And so this condor fell out of its nest in the cave and is now hanging out at the base of these cliffs while it's stretching out its wings and taking very short flights. So we can see this condor chick here and its parents coming back to visit it. Now California condors have a 9.5 foot long wingspan. So these are gigantic birds, but we don't need to worry. They only eat dead things. So they will find dead animals to eat and feed on that carrion, which helps clean up the environment.
As we traveled in here today, we saw some wildlife. In fact, behind us over here, we just saw some quail. What other wildlife might we find here?
So most commonly we see mule deer and squirrels, and we have lots of very cool birds here. But we also have a lot of nocturnal animals, things like bobcats and mountain lions and gray fox that we often just see signs of. We don't normally see the animal, but we have lots of signs left on our trails throughout the park as well.
How many people visit here a year?
This year we're probably, I would estimate, going to have about 5 million visitors. So
Wow.
It's been a very busy year here.
So we're filming in front of a nature center.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about that nature center and what you guys do in there.
Yeah, so our nature center is where our Junior Ranger program is based out of, but it's also a great place to come if you want to learn more about the ecosystems and the animals that live in Zion. And so we do a lot of programs out of our nature center and teaching about the park.
I also read some things that are a little troubling about the park, and that is that some deer and some squirrels have been showing some aggressive behavior towards humans. That's a problem, and that's something we're going to ask the kids to try to solve. But tell us why that might be a problem, because if a squirrel comes over to my picnic table, I might want to feed them, right?
Yes, I understand that the squirrels and the deer are very cute, and especially when they don't run away, it's hard to understand why we shouldn't go up to them. But the squirrels can carry lots of diseases. They can have fleas that can jump to you even if you don't touch them. They also bite very commonly, and that can be a way to transmit disease. It doesn't feel good, so even if it doesn't transmit disease, it's not fun, but it could transmit things like rabies or even the bubonic plague.
Wow.
So it keeps us safer if we don't approach them, and it's also a lot better for the animals if they stay farther away from us. They're showing this aggressive behavior because they have been fed by humans in the past, and they now see us as a source of food. But the food that we feed them is not healthy for them to eat. And so they can look very overweight and very chubby, but they can actually die of malnutrition even if they look overweight because they are not eating things that they can digest.
Well, it goes back to the mantra of the national park, sort of to leave no trace. And so that means what you bring in, you need to take out and not share with all of the little friends that you meet on the way. So thinking about the feeding of these animals and the aggressive behavior that's being shown, we like to talk about the United Nations Sustainability Challenges. So those are 17 goals that we need to try to meet by the year 2030, and our world really needs help. Now, the adults are doing an okay job of solving the problems, but we're finding that kids can sometimes have the best ideas. So why don't we do this? Kids, let's take the idea of this feeding of the squirrels and deer that we shouldn't be doing, and merge two of the UN goals. So the first UN goal would be goal 15, which is life on land. Basically, we have to do really good to take care of the animals. We are the caretakers of these animals. And then we're also going to integrate goal 3, which is well-being and safety, because we could get sick ourselves. But let's not forget that it's not all about us. It's about these other animals. And if the animals are getting malnourished because they're eating your cheeseburger or your pretzels, that's not helping them either. So we're going to encourage you students to come up with a solution to the problem that Zion National Park faces with these animals. Now, we're in Zion, but this problem, Katie, probably happens all around the world, right? So these animals are not meant to be fed human food. So can you design a social media campaign? Can you design a talking trash can that you can get kids to, or get adults and kids to think about, that would make them think, oh, I'm going to put my food in there, or I'm going to finish my food? Something that would encourage. Maybe you can create some posters that Ranger Katie could use around the park, just to remind people that human food is for humans, and squirrels and deer will not be aggressive if we keep our distance with them. So you're going to make sure that you tag that at #NatParkChallenge, and you're also going to want to tag Zion National Park. You can see the hashtags running across the bottom of the screen. I think this could be fun for them, Katie. I think it'd be a fun idea, but it would also make them think about what they're learning here today is something they can do in their own communities, because kids have a really big heart for animals and they want to keep them safe. One of the things we also like to encourage our students to do is to think about what they want to be when they grow up, right? They have kindergarten through 12th grade to sort of come up with some ideas. Now, a lot of these kids want that hat. Like, they want to work in the national parks. In fact, you said something really funny. I hope you remember it. When we first got here, I asked you how long you'd been here, and you said you had done a couple years of internship, but then you got the green and
Yes, I am fully fledged in the green and gray now.
Yes, which is a total fashion statement, we know, but we know that kids would like those colors too in that hat. So can you tell the kids maybe some things they could be doing now to prepare for a life as a park ranger?
Sure, and I do know this is a very cool hat, so I understand. Now, I would encourage you to explore. I think that exploring in your own backyard or national parks that are around you can be helpful, because if you understand what you like learning about and what you like seeing around you, maybe that's landscapes like this and you like learning about the rocks, or maybe you like learning about the birds, or maybe you like learning about the human history in an area. There's a place for that in the parks. We need people to learn about those things and research those things, or teach other people about them like I do. And so if you can find what you like learning about, then you'll be able to apply that somehow.
And we still always encourage you, like she said, to read and volunteer when you get old enough. It could be even in parks around your community. It could be in local city parks or state parks. We want you to be happy in whatever you choose, but go ahead and start thinking about it now. Now remember, Ranger Katie said when she was young she thought she would be a teacher. Well, she is. She's a teacher with an outdoor classroom. We want to see what you're going to become when you finish your schooling. Katie, thank you so much for having us here today. It is such a beautiful place. I'm sure that it brings you some calmness when you come here and you really sort of can center yourself and think. And with kids, they need that too. They need the opportunity just to sit. When we were at Cape Cod National Seashore, the ranger there talked about the long sit, where he encourages kids and adults just to go out in nature, find a place just to sit and don't speak. Just listen and smell and hear and even taste, if it's safe, the world around you. So thank you so much for having us here today.
Of course, thank you for coming.
And kids, thank you again for joining us for number 65. Did you see that? 65. We are starting in on our year 4 of the National Parks Expedition Challenge. We don't know where we're going to be next, but we hope to be in a national park near you. This is Dr. Drizzle and Ranger Katie, and we're out of here.